Good day, everyone. Our topic is the teacher as a knower of the curriculum. I am Dr. Erwin R. Avrencilio. So for our learning outcomes, describe the different approaches to school curriculum. Explain the curriculum development process and models. Third, describe the foundations of curriculum development. And fourth, explain how each foundation influences the curriculum development. So basically, we have the following lesson outlines. First, approaches to school curriculum. Second, curriculum development processes and models. And foundations of curriculum development. So our discussion will focus on these three topics. So first, let us talk about approaches to school curriculum. So there are three ways of approaching the curriculum or the school curriculum. First is curriculum as a content or body of knowledge, curriculum as a process, and curriculum as a product. So our discussion on these approaches will start with the content, then it will be followed by the process, and then the product. So let us begin with curriculum as a content or body of knowledge. So as a future teacher, you should know that one of the things that is considered to be uh, important in teaching and learning processes is our mastery of the subject matter, because the subject matter is essential, because these are the knowledge that we are going to impart with our students. So in this topic, we will be dealing more about the content. A curriculum as a content, curriculum as a process, and curriculum as a product. So there are four ways of presenting the content. So one is a topical approach, wherein much content is based on knowledge and experiences. So as a teacher, we must be if you are going to select this one in presenting your content. So meaning to say, um, when you present it, there should be a lot of content, which is based on knowledge. And where are you going to get this knowledge? This could be your stock knowledge, or this could also be a knowledge that you have acquired by reviewing the topic before you meet your class. So, for example, you are going to tackle this next week. So, by this week, you are currently studying the topic already. And of course, another one is the experiences. So experiences meaning to say that when you are going to share the topic with the content with your students, so if you're using this approach, it is not enough that you have a knowledge about the content, but you should also have not experiences. For example, let's say you are a teacher in TLE or TVL, and your topic is about, let's say, baking, no? Let's say you are going to bake a certain bread. So let's say your one of your industrial experiences is that you were assigned before in a certain a bakery, wherein your task is to bake certain breads or cakes. So you have the knowledge, and then you also have the experience. Second is concept approach. So fewer topics in clusters around major and sub-concepts and their interaction with relatedness emphasized. So what are these pure topics? Pure topics meaning to say that uh, in sharing the content or in presenting the content, there are fewer topics in clusters, but there are what we call as major and sub-concepts, meaning you have a general concept on top, and then you have specific concepts at the bottom of it. And then there should be discussion on the interaction or connection of this topic and another topic. So, for example, you are a social science teacher, AP teacher, and you are going to present the content about history. So you have here the history of the Philippines. And of course, in discussing the history of the Philippines, you can always begin with the pre-colonial. So you have the pre-colonial era on top. Then it will be divided into certain categories. And these categories, the connection between this category, no, will be given emphasis. So what's the connection of this era with another era? So something like that. So that's why the term is concept. You're putting smaller or fewer topics in clusters around a major and sub-concepts. You have the main concept or the main topic, and then you have the subtopics, and you are going to discuss the connection of this subtopic with one another. All right. So another one is thematic approach. So this is a combination or as a combination of concepts that develop conceptual structures. So you have different concepts that may lead into the formation of a bigger or a larger concept. So you may always start with examples. Let's say you're going to discuss about noun. So you are discussing different samples of nouns, and then at the end of it, you will ask them to define what noun is. So based on the different concepts that you have, based on the examples that you uh, gave your students, from there, they will develop a certain concepts based on the learning activities, based on the different concepts that you have presented. So another one is modular approach, which is leading to the completeness a unit of instruction. So these are the four ways of presenting the content. So let us continue with criteria in selecting the content. So uh, in depth ed or even in CHED or in TESDA, no, most of the time there is what we call as a recommended curriculum or recommended curriculum, wherein the content is already indicated in the syllabi or in the prospectus or even in the not in the prospectus because those are the topics or the subjects, but the curriculum guide in DepEd, no, there are already competencies based on the content. So meaning to say these are non-negotiable since these are given by or recommended by an agency. However, still there is what we call as criteria in selecting the content. So these are the following. So first one is significance. So significance meaning is the topic or is the content important? So should contribute to ideas, concepts, principles, and generalization that should attain the overall purpose of the curriculum. So is the content that you're going to discuss to them important? You might say it is important because it is indicated here that I should discuss this content or this topic. But you have to remember, no, for your students to appreciate the content that you are discussing or you are targeting for a certain meeting, make sure that they can be able to look into the significance of it. So another one is validity or the authenticity of the subject matter. So there are some content that may be what do you call that, obsolete already. Okay, so for example, back in the days, there are 9 major planets. Pluto is included there. But way back 2006, it was reclassified, and there are only 8 major planets in the solar system. And the rest are Pluto belongs to another category. Pluto is still there, but it is no longer categorized as a major planet. So that is already obsolete, no? The thinking that Pluto is a major planet, or the concept wherein Pluto is a major planet, is already an obsolete, no, a knowledge. So meaning to say, it is no longer valid, no. So there, before you discuss a certain content, no, I make sure that the one that you're discussing is still authentic. It is still the principle that we follow every day, that there's no contradicting or there's no other existing principle that may disprove the the principle that you are talking about, or the subject matter for that example. So you make sure that it is valid. All right, another one is utility. So usefulness of the content in the curriculum is relative to the learners who are going to use this. One thing that is a basic problem, no, in uh, perhaps in the educational system, is that there are contents that the students may find it difficult to understand because they cannot appreciate it, because they do not they they thought that this is not useful, that they can learn the content, but it seems that they find it difficult to apply the content. So in selecting the content, make sure that it is useful. The content is useful. So usefulness of the content in the curriculum, meaning to say, though it is already pre-given, no? So it is indicated in the curriculum guide. These are the content. So how can you identify or check whether the utility of that particular content, if it is pre-given already? You might say it is non-negotiable. So even if it is useful or not, I have to teach it. Well, the truth is, it is non-negotiable. However, you have to help the students understand the usefulness of that content. I think even if it is difficult to look into the usefulness of it, what will matter is the resourcefulness of the teacher to help the students understand and connect the topic or the content in their daily lives, so that they can be able to see na it is useful. The content is useful. All right. So these are again, this the continuation. So another one is learnability. The complexity of the content should be within the range of experiences of the learner. So meaning to say, is the content uh, can the students easily learn the content? So as a teacher, you have to simplify. You have to make sure that the content can be learned by the students. Meaning to say that if uh, you may look into that, that they are not actually learning, so you should think of, uh, let's say, selecting the content or revising the content in order for them to learn the concept. All right. So another one is feasibility. So content should be learned within the time allowed, resources available, expertise of the teachers, and nature of the learners. So I am sure that you might have experienced this one, wherein the teacher will uh, over time, or the encounter with the class is already over time. Let's say it is supposedly 1 hour, but it became one and a half hour or almost 2 hours. So it is because the teacher might uh, perhaps the teacher failed in conducting this feasibility test. No, so as a teacher, you make sure that the content that you're presenting for that meeting can be learned within that meeting. Okay, within the time allowed. So if the curriculum guide tell tell you that the competency can be learned in a week, then it should be learned in a week, not in another week or 2 weeks in total. Okay, so resources available. So you have to look into whether you have the resources. It is easy to make lesson plan, but to put into the resources available. So you make sure that in your let's say in your library or audiovisual room, no, so there are resources that you can use. Expertise of the teachers, no, so there are some subjects, specifically in the senior high school, that others may find it difficult to teach. So meaning to say that they should hire, no, expert teachers, expert in the field. Okay. And of course, the nature of learners should also be taken into consideration. Another is interest. So the content should be meaningful. Interest is one of the driving force for students to learn better. So what if the topic is not that interesting? How can you make them realize that the content should be learned by them? So it is quite a challenge, no? So you make sure that you can be able to devise a way in order to awaken the interest of the students, even if the subject itself or the topic itself may find it difficult to understand. But again, it is okay if the content is difficult to understand as long as there's an interest. No, so then the rest will follow. It can easily be learned. It can be finished within the time or the feasibility, the learnability under the interest. All right. So this is the guide in the selection of the content commonly used in the daily life. So you have to check also the kind of students that you have. What are their background? Are they working students, or they are the eldest in the family, or they are single parent, and so on and so forth. And appropriate to the maturity levels and abilities of the learners. So that's why for each grade level, let's say grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, there are only certain competencies, no, or content that can be learned by them. So you cannot just teach, let's say in kinder, you cannot just give them algebraic expression, no, or solve for the square root of certain numbers, because these topics are complicated and may not be appropriate to the maturity levels and abilities of the learners. So you make sure that when you give the content, it is appropriate to the maturity levels and abilities of the learners. Another is valuable in meeting the needs and competencies of the future career. So, meaning, is the content needed in the future? Can they use this in taking subjects in college, or can they use this in working or in putting up business? Related to the subject field for complementation and integration. Okay, so when you integrate subject matter, make sure that they complement each other. Make sure that there's really a relatedness among them. Important in the transfer of learning to other discipline. All right. So this one is the basic principles of curriculum content. So the term basic has its meaning. So it is an acronym with a meaning on it. So let's start with letter B. One is balance. Content should be fairly distributed in depth and breadth. So, meaning, um, specifically in hard and difficult topics, no. So you make sure that the easy, the average, and difficult content or topics are distributed in the school year. Do not start with all difficult or all easy or all um, average, no, or average content. So you make sure that you plan it out properly. Another is articulation. Content complexity progresses with educational levels, vertically or horizontally across the same discipline. What is this vertically and horizontally? So if it's vertically uh, within the we call that within the subject itself, okay, within the subject itself, because um, the the teacher will start with the easy example, and then it will be followed by a difficult example or easy topic going to the difficult topics. So that's vertically. Now if it is horizontally, let's say topics in verb in grade 7, topics in verb in grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. So that's horizontally across the same discipline. So the same, for example, parts of the cell in grade 7, then parts of the tissues in grade 8, organ system in grade 9, population and community in grade 10. So there is horizontal connection. Another sequence, so logical arrangement of the content in the same discipline. So sequence meaning to say na in the discussion, in the selection of the content, you should know which one should be learned first, and then which of the topics will be and followed, and so on and so forth. So that's the sequence, no? Step by step of the content. Okay, another one is integration. So content is related to other concepts of the same discipline or with others. So for example, your subject's English, it could be connected with mathematics or with sciences, or it could be of the same discipline. Like for example, you're talking about parts of the plant in science, and then later on you can also connect that to the animal parts of the animal body. Okay, so that's the same in the same discipline. But if it is with others, like science can be connected to math, mathematics can be connected to English, and so on and so forth. So for continuity, so that completes the acronym BASIC. Content should continuously flow as it was before. It is perennial and endures time. Meaning, the content is will not easily fade. Meaning, it is continuous. The knowledge, our knowledge, let's say for example in noun, is the same as the knowledge 10 years ago or perhaps 20 years ago. So meaning, it is continuous. There is continuous flow as it was before. There could be additional, but the old ones may still remain. So that's why the term is continuity. So that's the basic principles of curriculum content. So let us look into the process approach. So a while ago we were talking about the content. At this time it is the process. So this is the actual teaching and learning process. So what is going on? No, what are the things that you will consider in process approach? So one is curriculum process in the form of teaching methods or strategies are meant to achieve the end. So meaning to say that in the process approach, since it will deal with the actual implementation of of the plan, since it is the actual teaching and learning processes, then therefore you have to utilize teaching methods. So how are you going to help your students attain the objectives or the competencies for that day? So you need a method or a strategy. Another is that there's no single best process or method. So you have to remember that, no. Others might say na, oh no, it is the learner centered. Or others may say na, I use PowerPoint. They can easily learn by a PowerPoint or by film viewing or by field trips or whatsoever, no. Or deductive, inductive methods and so on and so forth. But then again, there's no single best process or method. You have to remember that um, there is what we call as individual differences among the students. So one approach may be effective in this class, but may not be effective on the other. No, so meaning that you have to consider a lot of things, and there's no such thing as best process or method. So you have to remember, as long as the students can learn in the method, as long as the students can learn in the process, then therefore you have to use it, even if it is old. No, others are saying that do not use cartolina and Manila paper because that is no longer effective. So what if it is still effective? It may be effective in those areas without electricity. It may be effective to others who are living in on top of the mountain, wherein a PowerPoint, laptop, and other gadgets may not be used. Curriculum process should stimulate the learner's desire to develop holistically. So remember, it is not only about cognitive or the knowledge part of the development. No, we need to develop also other things like other aspects of their personality, spiritual, physical, emotional, those things. So the entire process in the teaching and learning process should awaken the interest of the students to develop the entire aspects of their personality, not only the cognitive one. In the choice of methods, learning and teaching styles should be considered. No, so learning style is the style wherein the learners may learn. It could be by visual or auditory. Teaching styles are the way we teach. What is our style? No, so when you select a method, you have to consider these things. What are the learning style of my students? Can they easily learn via visual, via hearing, or auditory, and so on? How about you? What is your teaching style? So at the end of it, you have to match the learning style of your students with your own teaching style. So every method or process should result to learning outcomes. So meaning that it should attain the objectives, and then at the end of it will attain the learning outcomes. Flexibility in the use of the process of method should be considered. Flexibility meaning to say that during the actual teaching and learning process, you found out that it is not, this method is not effective to this kind of student. Can you change it? No, can you change it on the spot? Yes. So that's how flexible the process is. Let's say, for example, in the plan, your presentation of the lesson is by a video clip. No. However, before you come to the class, 5 minutes before, there is power interruption. So there is brownout. What are you going to do now? Are you gonna say, "Oh, we do not have class. We do not have electricity," but you cannot just leave your class because they will be late in the subject or they will be late in the topic. So you have to consider this, no? That when you plan, there is this plan B, there is plan C, plan D, impossible. So that when plan A, your main plan, um, may not be implemented due to a lot of factors, then you do plan B. If plan A and plan B are not that effective in the implementation, then you do it in plan C and so on. Both teaching and learning are the two important processes in the implementation of the curriculum. It's not only about learning. It is not only about teaching alone, no, but it is the teaching and learning processes. Okay? When you teach, you are doing teaching process. When they learn, they are doing learning process. So you have to meet at the middle. No? So we are done with curriculum as a content, curriculum as a process, and let us now look into curriculum as a product. So product is what the students desire to achieve as a learning outcomes. Yes, that's correct. No? What happens to our students at the end of their stay in our care is our own learning outcomes. So if they can exhibit all the knowledge and skills that they have learned, that is a good learning uh, outcome. But if the students fail to show the basic of the knowledge and skills that uh, you teach them, then there could be failure in the achievement of the learning outcomes. So something like that. So the product from the curriculum is a student equipped with the knowledge, skills, and values to function effectively and efficiently. Okay? So curriculum product is expresses in form of outcomes which are referred to as achieved learning outcomes. So that's the curriculum product, no? Which is the achieved learning outcomes. So what are the learning outcomes achieved by your students in your class? So that ends my discussion about the first part. Let us look into the second part, which is curriculum development processes and models. So these are the steps in curriculum development process. So first one is curriculum planning. When you plan a curriculum, you have to include the vision of the school, the mission of the school, the goal of the school, the philosophy of the school, and a lot more. No? So that's part of the curriculum planning. You cannot just implement curriculum without plan. As the saying goes, if you fail to plan, then your plan will fail. Something like that. I'm not that sure in that example. So anyway, so curriculum designing, the way curriculum is conceptualized to include the selection and organization of content learning experiences in assessment procedures. So what is next to plan is to design. So you have the school vision and mission and goal, you have the philosophy of the school, and then when you plan, after you plan, then you will design the curriculum. Okay? So what are the things that you have to consider? What is the criteria or how are you going to select and organize content? So let's say your content is about sorry, I'm gonna give examples for science. Let's say your topic is earth science. So what will be the arrangement of the content in earth science? When you are done, then the next thing is selection and organization of learning experiences. When we speak of learning experiences, these are the activities, no? So which of the activity will go first, which one will go second, and which one will go last? Assessment procedures are also considered. What will be the tool in measuring the learning of your students? So the next one is curriculum implementing. You are done with the plan, with the design, and in this time, you have to implement it. So putting into action the plan in the curriculum design. Okay. So it needs a lot of work from us teachers in the curriculum implementation. So the last one is curriculum evaluating, determines the extent to which the desired outcomes have been achieved. So actually, it's not when we evaluate the curriculum, it's not only about that attainment of the desired outcomes by the students or by the learners, but it also measures whether our objectives are correct, and it also measures whether the activities that we gave them is also commendable. All right. So these are the different curriculum models, curriculum development process models. So first one is Rugg-Tyler model for basic principles. So the second was Hill-Tataba model, grassroots approach. Third is Galen-Saylor and William Alexander curriculum model. So let's talk first about the four basic principles by Tyler. So according to him, when you make or when you design a curriculum, it should include these four basic principles. First one is purposes of the school. What's the school for? Okay. So purposes of the school may include the objectives, the goal of the school, the the general vision or mission of the school. So these are all parts of the purposes of the school. Another one is educational experiences related to the purpose. So what are the activities that you can give them in order to attain the purpose or the objectives? Then organization of the experiences, which one is the easiest? The easiest should always be the first activity, followed by the average and then difficult. And then evaluation of the experiences. So these are the four basic principles of Tyler model on curriculum development process. So another one is Hill the Taba or grassroots approach. Okay. So the first one is diagnosis of learners' needs and expectations of the larger society. So I just imagine also there should be diagnostic tests given to learners for you to be able to identify the needs and expectations of the larger society or of the students. When you are done with this, the next thing that you have to do is to formulate the learning objectives. And then when you are done with the learning objectives, then you have to select the learning content. Of course, before you formulate the learning objectives, you already have an idea what will be the content so that you can be able to make the learning objectives. And then the next thing, selection of learning contents. Of course, there is what we call as curriculum guide, which is non-negotiable. We have to teach all those content. Organization of learning content, selection of learning experiences, and determination of what to evaluate and the means of doing it. So just imagine it is almost the same as that of Tyler, okay, or other models. Another one is Galen, Saylor, and William Alexander curriculum model. So this is very brief. So it includes goals, objectives, and domains. Goals is more general. It followed by the objectives and then the domains. And then you also have the curriculum designing. Curriculum designing will include the writing of syllabi, or it could also be writing of lesson plan. And then curriculum implementation, the teaching and learning processes. Then after that is the evaluation of the learning of the students, as well as whether you have a correct objectives and activities and then evaluation tool. Okay, so that ends the second discussion about curriculum development process and model. So let's talk about curriculum foundations. So for the foundations of the curriculum, we have philosophical foundation, historical foundation, psychological foundation, social foundation, and so on. All right. So let us begin with philosophical foundation. So if you have a subject in philosophy way back in senior high or here in the college, no, you might notice that these are almost the same. No. Okay, so philosophical foundation. So let's begin with perennialism. The aim is to educate the rational person and cultivate intellect. And then role of the teacher is to assist students to think with reason. Okay, so teachers are assistant, no, of learners for them to think with reason. So it is no longer just about uh, no longer just about the no no the students without thinking, no, just submitting let's say just submitting papers without considering to read first the content or the module, no. But in this case, teachers assist students to think with reason. Okay, so um, the teachers give assistance to the students. So what are the focus? So we have here classical subjects because perennialism was um, established during the classic, no, uh, during the ancient time or medieval. So literary analysis can also be included. And for the trends, use of great books in liberal arts. Okay. So essentially, same aim is to promote intellectual growth of the learners to become competent. Teachers are sole authorities in the subject area. So, do you think this is still applicable today? No. So it is difficult to give the sole authority to the teachers in the subject area. Okay. In the time of pandemic, no, so all are having their modules online, no, and the role of teachers are not just sole authority, but there are a lot of resources where students can be able to get their answer. But still, this is essentially same. Teachers are sole authorities in the subject area. Essential skills of the three R's, essential subjects and other essential subjects. Three R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Learning how to read, how to write, and how to count. Okay? And the trends way back then is back to basics. If you'll notice here, how to write, how to read, and how to count are basic, no, basic knowledge. And then excellence in education, cultural literacy. So let's talk about progressivism. So aim is to promote democratic social living. Teachers lead for growth and development of lifelong learners. So lifelong learners meaning to say that uh, the the study of the learners will not end when they graduated college. So there are a lot of opportunities for them to learn as a lifelong learner. Focus is interdisciplinary subjects, learner-centered outcomes based. Interdisciplinary meaning to say that it includes all other subjects, science, math, English, Filipino, TVL, and so on. And then learner-centered outcomes. Okay. So the trend is equal opportunity for all, contextualized curriculum, humanistic education. So just imagine that. For reconstructionism, the aim is to improve and reconstruct society. Teachers act as agent of change and reforms. Focus present and future educational landscape. And for the trends, school and curricular reform, global education, collaboration and convergence, standards and competencies. All right, so let us talk about historical foundation of the curriculum. Let's start with Franklin Bobbit. So started the curriculum development movement, and then curriculum is a science that emphasizes students' needs. So at this point, they they thought that it is a science. So when we speak of that it is a science, it is a knowledge. Curriculum is a knowledge, wherein the focus must be the needs of the students. So what are the needs of the students according to Franklin Bobbit? And then curriculum prepares learners for adult life. So meaning curriculum, the one that should be developed when it comes with the curriculum should be the one that can prepare the learners in their adult life. And objectives and activities should group together when tasks are clarified. So the point of Bobbit here is that objectives and activities should group together when tasks are clarified, meaning that the students have the ability to look into which objectives and activities will respond to their needs because students have different needs. Another is where charters, curriculum sa science and emphasizes student needs, almost the same as the other one. Objectives and activities should match. Subject matter or content relates to objectives. In objectives and activities should match. So for example, the the objective tell about the objective is stated like to demonstrate the ability of the students to dance cha-cha. So the activity should respond to the objective. So meaning to say, if it is demonstrate, then the activity is also demonstrate. You cannot just write an essay on how to dance cha-cha because it doesn't support the objectives. And subject matter content relates to the objective. Yeah, that's correct. And then another one is William Kilpartick, curricular purposeful activities which are child-centered. So child-centered meaning to say that teachers are facilitators of knowledge, facilitator of learning. So we are not the ones. We are when we speak of facilitators, we do not directly give them the answer to a certain problem, but we guide them to arrive in answers to the problem or in getting the answer to the problem. The purpose of the curriculum is child development and growth. And curriculum develops social relationships in small group discussion. So part of the child-centered curriculum is that there is always social interactions, and an example of that is small group discussion. Because since they will not get the knowledge directly to the teacher, because that will be teacher-centered. The purpose of the small group discussion is that they are helping each other in arriving to the knowledge that should be learned in a particular day. Another is Harold Rugg. A curriculum should develop the whole child. So this is holistic development. Curriculum should produce outcomes. So outcomes meaning what will happen to the learners after undergoing a certain curriculum. Suggested that the teachers plan curriculum in advance. Yeah, that should be done because you cannot just plan. Let's say you have a lesson tomorrow, and the plan will happen tonight. So yung gabi bago ka magklase ka nagplano, no. It should be weeks before may plano ka na kaagad. But the actual preparation may take days, but do not plan same almost the same time as you will implement the plan because in planning the curriculum you need to consider a lot of things. Another is Hollis Caswell. Curriculums are organized around social functions of teams, organized knowledge and learners' interest. Curriculum instruction and learning are interrelated. Yeah, it should be. No, curriculum is connected to instruction and learning. Curriculum is a set of experiences, so that's why In a curriculum, the activities are stipulated. The activities may be included because for the attainment of the goals of the curriculum, it is done by the experiences we give to our students. Another is Ralph Tyler. Of course, you have heard of this in my previous discussion. So, curriculum is a science and an extension of school's philosophy. It is based on students' needs and interests. So, it's not only about students' needs, but also the interests of the students. Curriculum is always related to instruction. Subject matter is organized in terms of knowledge, skills, and values. When we make objectives, we focus on this. Knowledge is the cognitive part, skills is the um, psychomotor part, and values is the uh, effective part. The process emphasizes problem solving, and curriculum aims to education generalist and not specialist. When we speak of curriculum, uh, when we speak of education generally, these are educators with no specific specialization. Another is Hilda Taba, contributed both to theoretical and pedagogical foundations of concepts development in critical thinking in social studies curriculum. She helped lay the foundation for diverse student population. When we speak of diverse student population, um, it is a certain situation in the classroom wherein you have different students. If you have 10 students, meaning they have different culture, they have different backgrounds, different knowledge, skills, values, and so on. So that is what we call as diversity, no diversity of student population. Peter Oliva, curriculum change is a cooperative endeavor. Yeah, look at what happened to the K-12 curriculum. So it's not only the movement of DepEd, but when DepEd changed their curriculum into K-12 curriculum, the CHED and TESDA followed. No, so they have to adjust the subjects, the curriculum in the college as well as in the TESDA. Since there was a change the in the old curriculum to the K-12 curriculum. Teachers and curriculum specialists constitute the professional core of planners. Yes. Before the implementation, there are what we call as planners or professional core of planners. Significant improvement is achieved through group activity. Yes. As stated, it must be a cooperative endeavor, so there should be group activity. Now, let us move into psychological foundation. So, psychological foundation, we have Ivan Pavlov. If you have taken psychology in the senior high school or in the college, you might heard of Ivan Pavlov. So he was the father of classical conditioning, famous for the SNR theory. No, it is a foundation of learning practice called indoctrination. His work is one of his works is the experiment conducted between a dog, a food, and a bell. So I do not know if you have heard of. I am sure that you have heard of this, wherein the dog was conditioned by Ivan Pavlov. So whenever Ivan Pavlov gave food to the dog, Ivan Pavlov will ring the bell. So even in the absence of the food, whenever the dog heard the the bell ringing, so the dog thought that it is food, even if without it. Edward Thorndike, connectionism theory, proposed the three laws of learning: law of readiness, law of exercise, and law of effect. So, law of readiness meaning just for a little explanation of it. A law of readiness means that you have to you have to prepare the students for them to get or to become ready in learning. You will not, whenever you ask questions, like for example, you are discussing and then you suddenly ask questions, you have to wait for a certain time before you can call a student because they're not yet ready. Let's say you are discussing about adverb, no? So adverb is this, blah, 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 blah. Then you will call you, the one at the back. Can you give an example of adverb? Oh, so there's no waiting time. So they are not that ready, no? So you have to give time. Another slope exercise, whenever we do certain things, we retain such skill. Like for example, um, those knowledge that we have, teachers, let's say in my case, I am a science major, meaning I can always recall all this concept in the sciences because I am teaching it. But just imagine if I am not teaching, so what will happen? Okay, so it will not be retained. So specific stimulus has a specific response. Another is Robert Gagne proposed the hierarchical learning theory. Behavior is based on prerequisite condition, and he introduced tasking in the formulation of objectives. So prerequisite condition, what is that it has something to do with the behavior, no? But let us look into the educational application of it. So he introduced tasking in the formulation of objectives. So well, in the formulation of objectives, you have to consider a lot of things. What will be the knowledge? What will be the skills? What will be the values that should be indicated there? Another is Jean Piaget, cognitive development theories. Keys to learning are the assimilation, accommodation, and equilibration. So, yeah. So another is Lev Vygotsky, sociocultural development theory. Learning precedes development, and keys to learning are pedagogy creates learning processes that lead to development. Yes, and the child is an active agent in his or her educational processes. And of course, the sociocultural development theory, no, wherein the learners learn from the environment. The learners learn because there's a model. It could be someone in the if it is toddler or just small kids, no. So they usually imitate what they can see, what they can see on the in the television, in the YouTube, or even among the parents or siblings. So another is Howard Gardner, famous for the multiple intelligences. So long time ago, they thought that uh, what is important is the IQ of the students. No, so intelligence quotient. Then it was followed by EQ, emotional quotient, and then Howard Gardner said that there's no such thing as um, poor in intelligence. No, but perhaps they are lacking in the development of other intelligences. But there's always that one or two that can surpass the performance of other intelligences. So that is multiple intelligences. Another is Daniel Goleman, a proponent of emotional quotient or EQ. Emotions contain the power to affect action. And then another is Gestalt, famous for the Gestalt theory. Keys to learning is are learning is complex and abstract. Learners analyze the problem. Learners perceive something in relation to the whole. So that is the Gestalt theory, which are I think it's still applicable in today's concept in the field of education. So another is Abraham Maslow. Yeah, it is the self-actualization theory. Key to learning is produce a healthy and happy learner who can accomplish, grow, and actualize his or her human self. So if you can remember Abraham Maslow, the one with the triangle, no? Um, right. So wherein there is the hierarchy of needs. So the goal is to for the learners to go on top of the pyramid for self-actualization. We also have Rogers, non-directive and therapeutic learning. Key to learning is curriculum is concerned with processes, not product. Personal needs, not subject matter. Psychological meaning, not cognitive scores. So according to Rogers, the focus should be the the product, curriculum is concerned with processes and the personal needs and as well as psychological meaning. Another one is social foundation. So we have here John Dewey considered two fundamental elements, schools and civil society, to be major topics needing attention and reconstruction to encourage experimental intelligence and plurality. And Alvin Toffler, knowledge should prepare students for the future. Yeah, it should be the case, no, because since future is uncertain and the students will live. I think they can survive in the future if the knowledge that they have has something to do with what to expect and what should they need in the future. In the future, parents might have the resources to teach prescribed curriculum from home as a result of technology or homeschooling. So just imagine Alvin Toffler explained this many, many years ago, and then here is the homeschooling, no? So with the use of technology, and this is what we are experiencing right now. Schools and society, society is a source of change, schools as agents of change, and knowledge as an agent of change. All right, so that ends my discussion. No, so this is the resource book that we are actually using in this video uh, tutorial. So thank you so much for listening. I'll see you again by next time.